Hi, my name's Dominic Collings, and this is a little video about my router and a router table. So on a lot of internet forums, woodworking forums that I go on, we always get the question, what's the best router for a router table? And I always say Trend T11, and I always get an absolute slating for it. So this is me putting a case forward for why I think the T11 is the best router to use in a router table. So there's that, and my router table, which I built about 5 years ago, it's on quite a few forums. It might be familiar to you. It's got a couple of unique features that people often ask us about, so I'll take the opportunity in this video to tell you a bit about the table as well. So I'll do the table first. So like I say, I built this about 5 years ago, and basically the inspiration was from the Norm Abram table. I saw the video about 2 years before, decided I wanted to make a router table and waited forever for it to come around, but that episode never came around. So in the end I just came up with my own design, and this is what it turned out to be. So it's really heavy, which is great. There's not really any vibration. On the left hand side I've got 4 drawers. The top drawer and the bottom 2 are all for half-inch router bit storage. The second up top one's for ancillaries, featherboards, spanners and table inserts and whatnot. On the right hand side I've got 3 drawers for 1/4-inch router bits, no volt relay switch. The bottom is just basically one big drawer. The Norm Abram one has 2 drawers. This was only one. I couldn't remember how he made his. Funnily enough, the day after I built this router table, or the day after I finished, the episode I'd waited for months and months to come around did come around, but it was a bit late by then. This used to hold my old dovetailing jig, which was a Trend one. I've recently gone to the lean. The lee's too long and it won't fit in, so this is now just for general storage. I've got a perspex door, and underneath the door and inside you can see what I've got underneath. It's a Trend T11. So you can see here I've got real easy access to the speed controller. The lock and handle for the machine is a bit tricky to reach. It is just round the back, but to be honest, I never have need to use it. The only time I would even consider using it is if I was using a panel raising bit or something really large like this bit here. And to be honest, even then I've never had a problem when it's moved. So tricky to get to, but not really a problem. So we just close this. The biggest criticism that people have on the T11 is they say that the rise and fall mechanism is jerky, and I always say that's not the case, and I always get a slate, and there's always to and fro and going on in the forum, people saying it's not very good and me saying that it is. And what it comes down to, in my opinion, is it comes down to the handle that comes with the machine. And it's obviously to keep the cost of the machine down, but basically it fits in the slot, and yeah, it is kind of sticky to turn. It's not really great, and to be honest, I never use that ever. So what I use is this on the wall, and it's just kind of like an old-fashioned brace kind of turny effort. It's a half-inch socket driving handle. I've got it converted from 1/2 inch to 3/8, and I've got a 3/8 inch socket on, which is 12mm, a deep drive socket. So on the top of my router table I've got a 3/4 inch aluminium track from Rutland's for a cross-cut sled, or any kind of router sled fits in there. The router insert plate is homemade. It's 10mm perspex. It was just an offcut I had lying around, and I've got a hole cut here for the up and down winding adjustment. So I take my winder. At the moment I've got something like a 1/2 inch straight bit in. So I put my winder in. So to change a bit, I just turn it anti-clockwise, and it takes just a couple of seconds. I can leave that handle in. I have the spanner just here. So I've got extraction on this side of the router table. This is just bog standard 50mm plumbing fittings. So I've got a separate pipe that goes to the top vents. If you're trenching or doing a rebate in the middle of a panel, obviously there's no dust extraction on the top, so I've made it so you can disconnect that and plug the hole, so the extraction from underneath is a little bit better. It's also easier to get underneath with this pipe disconnected. So So to get underneath, like I say, I can leave the handle in, that doesn't go anywhere. I've hinged the top. Now, these are just regular butt hinges, albeit heavy duty ones at the front. Now a lot of people have seen this router table before, and one question I always get asked is, why did you make it so the top hinges forwards instead of backwards, because that would have been easier? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, and I always knew this is where I wanted the router table to go, and I always knew I was going to have space around this side of the router table. So to make the top tip backwards, it would have meant I would always have had to have either taken away the fence or moved the router table forward. Now, as it happens, I've got a real good set of casters on this table. These are from Axminster. The fixed casters at the back, the pivoting ones at the front, lockable, and they're pretty good. You just kick them off with your foot, with your toe up to kick them off, and press them down to keep them on. So to be honest, moving the table out's not really a big deal, but for this particular location in my shop, this is perfect for me. So, like I say, we've got a no water release switch on the front, and so I can take the router out of the table if I ever needed to. I've just simply widened the plug socket here, and the router just literally plugs into here. To be honest, I never take it out. I always say the T11 is a really good router for a router table, and it is, but there are better options for handheld use, and I've got better routers than this for out the table, just not in. So when we want to come to change a bit, I've got the spanner, 22mm spanner. There's a little locking button on the front of the T11 to lock the collars, so I just pop that in. This is the same kind of Collings you get on every other router, so there's kind of like a two-stage tightening process. So you turn it, it's quite loose, and you get to a certain point you feel a bit more resistance. So there's the bit out. And while I'm on, this is Tornado Blue Router bit set from Rutland's. It was on special offer about 6 months ago, so I took advantage of it, and it's got about 60, 64 bits, something like that. And it's really good value for money. A lot of people advocate only buying bits as you need them, but to be honest, I've used nearly all of these already, so it's been a real good buy. I've got a lot of storage in the table, but to keep it as one self-contained unit with all of the bits and all the sizes on, it seemed to make sense just to drill 2 holes in the top, and I've just mounted it to the wall, and it's been spot on. So pick a different size here. So we've got a 3/8 inch bit, straight cutting bit. So we just pop that straight in the collet. Now normally this would just be, you'd be able to turn this round with your fingers, but this is an indication that I really need to clean the collet, so that's going to be on my to-do list, that this is a little bit tight to do up, and I need the spanner all the way. So normally I'll be able to turn this with my fingers just until the last half a turn, nip it up with the spanner, so it's obviously covered in gunk. So that's all nipped up. So before I put the tabletop down, it's worth noting inside the gubbins of the table. So what I've got is the dust extraction pipe comes from the outside to the inside of the table, goes down, and what I've built is I've built this MDF kind of upside down pyramid. So all of the dust and chippings all basically fall down the slopes to the bottom and get picked up by the dust extraction at the bottom, and it's pretty good, to be honest, no problems. Hinging the top also means all of the vents at the top of the router casing, it's very easy to blow that out with an airline. So this is as old as the table, if not a bit more, so this router is probably 5.5 to 6 years old. Never had any problems with it, it's in real good condition, and it gets, for an amateur, I use this a lot. It's probably one of the tools I use most, and it's not failed me yet. If it does fail, I've said this again on forums before, it's pretty much the same, well, it is the same machine internally as the DeWalt 625. I've got a local agent just down the road, they're a DeWalt supplier, and if it broke down, they order a part from DeWalt, it's with them the next day, and it's fixed and back with me in a couple of days. So that's spot on. I have a gas pneumatic strut here. This one I actually got off a Fiat Punto, and just out of the scrapyard. The brackets either end are off the same car as well. The top's real heavy, and that just does a good job of holding it up. So back down with the top. To set the height, I use this. I'm not really trying to sell Trend or anything like that, but Trend do this little height gauge. They're about £7 or £8, which is real good value. So I just set it to whatever height I want. So in this case, say 10mm. Stick it on the router table, and I just simply wind it up clockwise, and that's about spot on. And there we go. It's as simple as that. Ready to go to work. I use the same jig to set the fence, and I've tried a lot of routers in router tables before, and the T11, just for this feature, you've got to bear in mind that you can buy a separate router raiser or router lift, and it's about £160–170 on its own. This machine comes with it built in. If you buy one of these winders, I got this from a boot sale for about £2 or £3, so for an extra £3 on top of the price, that's why I reckon the Trend T11's the best router at the moment, on the market at the moment for a router table.